Yo, Elliot, during last week's Q&A, I spoke about my new healthy lifestyle, but now I miss my degenerate lifestyle at my prior location in Colorado. I have continued my healthy habits and have simultaneously not been around women as much as I was prior to June. Therefore, I have not had sex. I'm 25, I lost my virginity at 20, and I have not gone longer than a month without sex since. I'm also trying to avoid masturbation to preserve my man juice, as you say, and to try sexual transmutation, like Stephen Arnio talks about in Hard Times Create Strong Men. This is extremely difficult to do, and the longer I go without an orgasm or sex, the more I find myself drifting off countless times throughout the day, fantasizing about it. Overall, I have way more energy, but my lustful thoughts continuously distract me. I went about a week without an orgasm, felt like an eternity, and I figured I would finally be able to focus if I gave into the urge. So I did, and for some reason I had a headache and my balls were in pain afterwards. Weird. He says, what is the best way to battle these urges while maintaining focus in my daily tasks? I like this question because I'm swimming in this sea with you, bro. I've decided to take on the practice of semen retention in relationship. So where a lot of you guys are either not in relationship or you're using pornography or masturbation, and I always believe that it's a good idea to rid yourself of these practices. I have to, at the same time, in order to speak with you with some authority and integrity, know what you're going through, know exactly what you're going through, to feel what it is to retain your urges, like you're saying, right? And I have been having sex multiple times a week for the past 25 years with my wife. And so I really I haven't had until recently, and this is why I'm excited for your question, had much to offer in the way of experience. I've read things, I hear things, I coach you guys so I get perspectives and feedback. But I recently now, past few weeks, really pushing the envelope with regard to how and when I decide to ejaculate. So for me, it's using Carezza sex, which basically means that you can have sex. I have sex, but retain the seed. Don't blow your load. It's a lot of fun. It's great. My wife loves it because sex just lasts as long as I would like it to, because controlling the sexual energy then becomes the practice. So a lot of the focus in many instances is less on her and what's going on and more on breathing and I got some tricks, some tips that have helped me. Breathing, and I never really understood it until I started practicing what circulating your sexual energy actually meant. So let me share just a few things I've discovered and tips that might help you while you're struggling with your urges. I noticed most poignantly this week, right? What's today? Thursday. So I had we're going on 2 weeks without blowing my load. And I've discovered that it takes me about 7 to 10 days to fully recover and be at my peak hardness, right? My peak penis rigidness, right? Right? Erectness is the word I'm looking for. Erectness. And you know what? One of the things I discover also too is that a man with an erect penis is an erect man. He's a straight up man. He's a hard man. I find myself being much more stoic, much more focused, much stronger. I have a certain vitality in me that makes my lifts that much better. My wife notices it too. She can feel it. She says, I can feel your vitality rising when we get to about day 7, day 8, right? I haven't blown my load for day 8, and once I get past 10, it's a whole different ballpark. So I struggled, but I saw the benefit just like you. And so let me share a little bit about what I did through that struggle, right? So here's what happens, right? You're sitting down and maybe a thought, it's always a thought or it's an image for men that turn us on because we're visual creatures. Some thought, some memory, some picture, something comes across our consciousness, and then there's movement down there, right? And if we continue to indulge, that movement turns into a full swelling of the organ, right? And then you get to this point where, okay, now I'm trapped with these thoughts. And for me, look, I'm struggling just like you guys, except it's not, for me, it's not a lot of thoughts or images. I'm watching my wife walk by and I'm like, oh, right? And I'm feeling it. Like, I just want to tear her apart and eat her whole body, right? I just want to just put her in my mouth, right? I just want to go over there. So as you start to harden up, right? As you start to firm up, as you start to become an erect man and you're feeling that erection, one of the things that I've discovered that I can do is pull back my attention from my member, particularly my prostate, right? I don't think we recognize how important the prostate is to the sexual act, right? When you orgasm, you know that pump feeling that you're getting? That's your prostate pumping out that cum. Your prostate is intrinsically linked in with arousal and ejaculation. And so one of the things that I, like as a horny kid, and maybe you guys can relate, but when I was younger and then I started noticing it when I'm retaining, is that your dick gets hard and then you start doing this like squeeze, this kind of like pump into the pelvic floor. It's almost analogous to the pumping that happens to the prostate when you're coming. And so I'd be sitting there and then I could just feel pulsing. You know what I'm talking about, right? That pulsing in your penis, that pulsing. And so what I started doing, right, because when I was younger, I would go with it and then maybe I'll go blow my load. And then I'm married, so I'm like, oh, I got pumping going on there. I gotta go put my penis in my wife. But because I'm retaining, because I'm controlling, because I'm being master of my domain, I notice that pumping and then I stop. You gotta stop the penis pumping. Right? You know what I'm talking about, right? You got a hard dick and you make it move. You can make it move. Stop making your dick move. When you have that thought come to you and there's just a natural response down below and your penis gets hard, do not flex those muscles. Let those muscles, you can almost, and if you're conscious, and I don't know how else to describe this, but then you remove sensation from your member. You remove sensation. You draw it back up into your body. And the way you can there's two ways to draw it back up into the body. These are just things that I've been practicing and noticing, right? If somebody else may describe it a different way, then maybe a scientific way to describe it. I don't know, but as I'm struggling, I'm struggling with you and I'm just sharing you what's worked for me. So draw the attention up out of your penis. Your penis may still stay hard, but you're not doing that prostate pump shit, right? Don't start pressing, right? Here's another thing we do, like we start squeezing. I'll start squeezing my leg together because that feels good, or I'll press like this, it feels good, right? All that, just avoid doing that. And then you have to breathe. You have to breathe. I'll show you exactly how I breathe. And this is when I'm doing this breathing, Colleen knows what's going on now. Because she's like, I can feel you. Like she can feel the animal. She feels the dragon inside me wanting to come out. And she kind of likes it. But I'm becoming master of that bastard. And so I have to do certain things to calm him down. And so one of the things that I find myself doing, and it's very resourceful in order to circulate that sexual energy so it doesn't get the best of me, is breathing in slowly through the nose, into the belly. And I got to tell you, it's a strange thing, especially when I'm rock hard and ready and I start doing that, I almost start to feel tingles throughout the rest of my body, almost like I'm having a full body orgasm. I'm drawing that energy, I'm drawing that angst, I'm drawing that power up into my body, and then it almost like it almost like draws up and then rains down, and I can feel like tingles in my arm, feel tingles in my face. It washes over, Kenzo, that's right. It's crazy, it like washes over me. And then I start to feel, and I'm doing it right now, because I'm breathing, and I'm doing this here with you guys, and I'm visualizing it. As it starts to wash over me, I start to feel a certain strength. I start to feel a certain energy, a certain power, and that's the greatest time to go get to work. And even if it just means do some push-ups, do some push-ups. You have, because energy does not disappear. It must be used. It must be utilized. It transforms. You ever hear that, right? Is that a term in physics that the energy you can't get rid of energy, it just transforms. You got to put it, you do something else with it, right? And if it's all consolidated down here and you're pumping your prostate and you're pressing your dick and you're thinking about chicks, you're going to be a mess unless you blow it out. But if you breathe through it, and it's key with the breathing that you relax all of your muscles. That's another thing, right? Like, do the breathing I'm talking about, but you can't be tense while you're breathing or trying to fight with breathing or try to forcefully breathe. It's a very, you don't even have to fill your lungs up. Fill up your lungs about 80%, 85%. I find that this works wonders, and I'm pleased. It might sound strange, but I'm pleased now when I can make my dick go soft. Because there was a time, and maybe you can relate, when my dick goes hard and then it's just like, well, the beast is taking over and there's nothing I can do. I need to go have sex as soon as possible, right? But instead, I see it, I allow it, I don't judge it, I breathe through it, and then I start withdrawing the energy from it. That energy, that vital resource, that kundalini energy, if you will, right? But sex energy can be circulated through your body and it can be projected outward in a myriad of different creative ways. And I think this is what is meant by sexual transmutation. I used to hear that word and I thought I knew what it meant, right? Like it made sense to me, but I really didn't have the experience until I started semen retention. Semen retention, I think will save the world. I think it will, because when men have full control over our sexual energy, we are not to be fucked with. We will not be manipulated. We'll have, you're faced to overcome the most insidious demons in your life when you're retaining your semen. I have had to have all kinds of conversations with myself these past few days while I was retaining. All kinds of conversations with myself. And I don't know about you guys, I'm just being transparent. I'm just telling you guys what's going on with me so that you don't feel like you're alone. Just, that when Uncle E is offering you advice, it's because he's swimming with you, working with you, doing it with you. But I start having all kinds of, I use the word perverted, and I mean, when I say perverted, I don't necessarily mean sexual, but all kinds of wrong thoughts. I start having all kinds of wrong thoughts when I let my sexual energy get the best of me. I start getting angry thoughts. I start getting jealous thoughts. All of a sudden, like all these demons start attacking me because my most base primal instinct to fuck is getting the best of me. And so I had to talk myself off the ledge a couple of times. When I say talk myself off the ledge, meaning like, not that I was going to jump off the ledge, but meaning that I need to rationalize with myself. Dick energy is not rational. That's another thing that we have to understand too. When you're under the spell of your boner, you're not thinking rationally. The brain, I don't know what happens. Maybe the blood leaves the prefrontal cortex and goes down to your dickhead, but you're not thinking right. You're getting all kinds of perverted thoughts. And so part of the deal with the breathing is helpful. It's physiological, it's physical. But you also have to recognize that when you are horny like that, your thoughts are not your thoughts. Those are, I don't want to say demonic thoughts because the demons are tempting us, but they're from our low nature. They're from our lowest nature. And that's why I recognize that sometimes there's fear in there, or there's jealousy in there, or there's, these unresourceful ways of thinking and feeling are present in there. right? Training, cold showers, doing hard things, right? Those are really good. That's really good advice, Kenzo. So a number of other things, because this is a conversation that I'm working with right now. These are things that I'm working with right now. I had to do this. I had to talk myself off the ledge and cool my cock down about 2 nights last week while I was laying with my wife. And I could have asked her for sex. I could have said, hey, let's just get naked, right? And she would have said yes. We could have done it. I could have blown my load. But it was more important to me, and it is more important for me, to be master of my domain than getting my load off. I think back to when I was younger. Sex has changed quite a bit since I turned 30, 35, maybe the past 10 years. Well, I remember when I was younger, I was so selfish. I was so selfish about sex. And I had this conversation with my wife about it last night, where sex for me was not that I didn't love my wife, or she was my girlfriend at the time, and that I didn't want to please her, but I didn't know how to control my sexual energy, and I was a premature ejaculator, right? It was just all about, like, I remember coming home from school, and we would get in my bed, and 5 minutes later, I blew my load, and we'd be watching TV. And I think back, and I'm like, wow, how immature that I had absolutely no control over my sexual energy. I didn't know that I should have control over my sexual energy. Yes, I was a slave to the pleasure. But as I've gotten older, and as I've had conversations with you guys, and I've learned more about semen retention, I really and truly believe that mastery over our sexual energy is mastery over our entire selves as men. You should be able to, I think this is so important, and I'm reading a really good book called Energy Carezza. I don't remember the name of the author. He's a doctor, but it's a really, really good book. And he asserts a lot of what I'm saying at this right now. I get it from him. But the bottom line is that if we learn how to control our sexual urges, if we learn how to control our sexual energy, if we learn to have mastery over our cocks, we will have mastery over every aspect of our lives. We will have mastery over every aspect of our lives, and we will have mastery over the women in our lives, because we can then give them exactly what they want. In this author's mindset, he says that every man should be able to give a woman unlimited orgasms before he blows his load. His whole conviction, and I think he's right, is that a man should have full conscious control over when he blows his load. And that is something that we're talking about, right? You're talking about not jerking off because you haven't been around women. And it's the same thing. Blowing our load, semen retention, whether it's carezza sex with your partner. And I think carezza sex is the future, man. I really do believe it. Thank you, Gold Jacket Luke, for bringing it up to me. But it's natural contraception, right? Think about that. There will be less abortions, less birth control pills, less promiscuity, less cheating in relationships, right? Because if you're not blowing your load, then you're not bored with your girl. That's an interesting thing also. It's an interesting dynamic that if you're having carezza sex, you won't lose interest so quickly in the woman that you're with because you still got it up for her. And like I said before, you will be an erect man. Walking around with a limp, I can tell the difference now. I couldn't tell the difference when I was younger. Maybe it's because I'm getting old, but I can tell the difference when I'm walking around with a limp dick. I feel like a fucking limp dick. I'm a limp dick man. There's a big difference between walking around with a limp dick and walking around erect. You want to be an erect man. Keep yourself erect. Don't blow your load. Circulate that energy. Transmutate it into some creativity. This is the way of mastery. This is the way of being a real man. Whether in relationships, not in relationships, you got to tame that beast. It's well worth it. It's well worth it. We will overcome so much. We will develop such mastery if we could just handle this one thing. I'm very convinced of that. And that's why I'm practicing it along here with you guys. Otherwise, I would have no reason or motivation to do so. Right? Because I'm married and I can have sex as much as I want. But just because I can doesn't mean I should. And here's another thing too. If you're in married relationships and you're honoring nature by not using contraception, this is the way for the true way to family planning. The true way to family planning is have as much sex as you want, just don't release your seed. I don't believe that's even considered contraception, right? Because contraception is the blockage of or the spilling outside of the vagina of your cum, right? You're blowing your load into a freaking bag or on a napkin or on the floor, right? Or all over her, right? That's contraception. But having self-control is not actually contraception. It's not actually contraception. It's actually just being master of your domain, right? So for an example, how can I give an analogy? In the process of courting, right? Let's say that, I'm trying to be I'm being a little old school here, but this is just the only example I can think of right now. When a young man and a young woman are courting, because I believe that that's the way to go. I think dating culture is degenerate and that it doesn't serve any of us, and it definitely doesn't serve families. But when a young woman and a young man who are both have sexual urges, but they're both virgins and they're both scoping each other out for potential partnership, right? They can speak to each other, be around each other, get to know each other without falling into the trap of the sexual act. And it's not considered contraception, it's just stopping before you get there, right? Is it considered contraception when you don't have sex, right? No, it's not considered contraception. You know what it's called? Self-control. And in a way, of course, if you're gonna be putting your penis in a woman, that should be your wife. If you're gonna be putting your penis in her by having self-control, it isn't necessarily contraception. It's just self-control. We are enjoying this intimacy. We are being one with one another, becoming one flesh in this way. But I decide when and how and if I'm going to drop a seed. I'm talking a lot about this because it's an interesting topic to me. It's one that's kind of fun. And this guy in the book, he talks about different forms of orgasm, and he calls it valley orgasming. He says there's peak orgasm, and peak orgasm in his mind is weak. He's like, if you're so weak that you have to have a peak orgasm every time you have sex, then you're not a real man. It's funny. This guy's like 80 years old too, talking about like his experiences growing up. And he says that you want to have valley orgasms, which basically means you don't blow your load, but you enjoy the intimacy with that person and that move. Sex still feels good when you don't blow your load. Did you know that? I discovered that. I discovered that recently. Sex still is amazing. Sex is great. Sex is even better, right? Because the burden of performance is on the man. And when you're not blowing your load, guess what? You're a greater performer. You're a much better performer when you're not trying to rush to the end. But because we grow up jerking off, watching porn, and trying to like not get caught in the bathroom, we rush into the end. And when you get with a girl, it's a rush to the end. Instead of taking your time. I'm giving you guys all kind of love-making tips. This is new for me. Take your time. Take your time. Take your time. And that's when you're dealing with a woman. So, but anyway, yeah, I can relate to your suffering. You're 25 years old and you want to blow your load and you're trying your best not to. And if you do beat it off, don't beat yourself up. Try again. But there's little tips that can help you retain, right? The little tips that can help you retain. It has a lot to do with pulling back, right? Do you know how to like remove your focus from a part of your body? Remove the focus from the sensation between your legs, especially within the prostate, and then breathe. This is also a way to last longer when you're having sex, I discovered, right? Because when you're having sex, a lot of times you put all your energy there, you go up and you're like, I'm gonna do it. But if you could insert yourself, but draw back at the same time. So I'm fully immersed, I'm fully engaged, I'm fully full and rock solid, but I withdraw my attention a little bit and I bring it up. Right? Bring it up through the breathing. That's how you have sexual mastery. The book I'm referring to, just one more time, is called Energy Carezza, Energy Carezza. And I think it's out of print, to be completely honest. I saw it on Amazon for like $100. Someone sent it to me, I believe. That's how I have it. But there's other books. The Gentleman Guide to Carezza Sex is another great book. You know, I'm talking to you guys who are in relationships that want to do semen retention. Stanley Bass, that's it, Jazz. But you guys who are on the no-fap mission, it's a worthy mission, and you get to develop what I believe is the most powerful tool for a man, and that is self-control, bro. So I hope that helps. Done.
Yo, it's your bro Elliot. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, you ought to know that it was a clip from one of my most recent King Transformation classes with my students, where, among other things, we get together about 4 or 5 hours a week and we speak on things as it relates to becoming kings in our lives in fitness, business, and with women. If that sounds like you and you want to join a like-minded group of men who are growing stronger every day, in every way in this degenerate age, then it's real simple. Just follow me on Instagram and then DM me the word King, K-I-N-G, and then me and my team will get back to the details to see if you qualify. I really hope to see you at the next meeting. Done.